Does it feel like every part of your life is divided? Every scenario, every environment, your church, your school, your work, your friends, left, right, conservative, liberal, religious, secular. It seems you always have to take a side. This is a conversation between a progressive Christian and a conservative atheist who happen to be great friends. Welcome to Living on Common Ground.
Do you think if we met today, we would still be friends?
I don't know, but we're friends now.
A mob is known as a mob because they are with you.
Man, so what? We won a few games. And y'all fools think that's something? Man, that ain't nothing, y'all. And you know what else? We ain't nothing either. Yeah, we came together in camp. Cool. But then we're right back here and the world tells us that they don't want us to be together. We fall apart like we ain't a damn bit of nothing, man.
How you doing?
I am great. Krista says that she's going to throttle me if she hears us ask if we're recording one more time to start off the episode. And so I'm asking, are we recording?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Yes. In fact, from now on, Krista, my clue to Lucas will simply be, how you doing?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And that means that I'm recording.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same way that we do the weekly update video.
And then I'll ask, are we recording?
Okay. So that was all just for Krista. Yes, we are. And so anyway, today we're going to talk about birth rates in the United States. We're going to start out first. Well, we're going to talk about birth rates, but then we're also going to talk about the idea of the impact that waiting to have children is having on birth rates, as well as is the decline in birth rates and or is the waiting longer to have children and to begin families connected to the wealth that we have
As a country.
Well, and I think really in the West, because I mean, we're going to look at let's do this. Let's start with, I got a clip.
Hang on. I'm going to say very clearly though, this all started because this is one statement that I do stand behind.
Yep.
Pretty stridently. And I'm willing to back it up.
Yeah. I'm not going to read any of your statements. If you want to make them, you make them.
Yeah. I'm going to make this one. There's some of them that I won't make because I made these statements to be intentionally inflammatory.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, that people would be better off getting married younger and having kids younger and having more kids.
Okay.
I am willing to put my neck out on that.
So just out of curiosity before the clip now.
Yeah.
How old were you when Reed was born?
Yeah. Okay. I was, let's see, we got married soon. Yeah. Well, okay. So he was born in 2008. Geez, I'm terrible about this. I think it was like 26.
Okay.
27.
In my mind, that's younger.
Yeah, I was 27. I was
Okay.
27.
Okay.
It is not younger, man.
Okay. I was 34 when
Yeah.
Madison, our first, was born.
Mhm.
And Denise was 33.
Mm-hmm.
And then she turned 34.
Yeah.
And then Robbie came 3 years later. So I was 37
Mm-hmm.
when Robbie was born. So yeah, we waited. But
Yeah.
we didn't wait as long as Denise's sister, who was early 40s.
Mm-hmm.
Was she 40?
Yeah, okay, so
Anyway.
I do want to say also,
Yeah, she was
This
in her
is-
40s.
this is delicate,
Mhm.
obviously, because as soon as we start talking about individual people, it's going to sound real judgy.
Right. And so, okay, just to say this too, the reason I bring up our family is just to give us an idea of what we're talking about in terms of older adults,
Mm-hmm.
adults that are traditionally older for childbearing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's a judgment on it at all. I think it's just a reality of the culture that we live in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So I
for
see.
sure.
So I attach no judgment to identifying the fact that at 40 years old, traditionally you're getting beyond what they would call "quote unquote" parenting years.
Well, and that's not just a culture thing, though. I mean,
Well,
that's
okay.
a biological thing. And
Yeah.
and also just for context as well, my grandmother
Mhm.
who raised me, my grandparents who raised me,
Yeah.
she, now think whatever you want of this. This is the 50s
Yep.
in California, the 50s in California. She got married when my grandpa was 20 and she was 16.
Mhm.
And she had all 3 of her kids by the time she was 21.
Yep.
And then done. So that's the context that I knew that.
Yeah.
And then, and again, I'm not trying to, well, and we'll play this clip and then move on with the conversation. But I also want to make sure that it's really clear that I'm not trying to say this. I think there's a rhetorical trap that we fall into sometimes where we go, well, I think that it would be better if X. And then people say, well, you didn't do X. And then you try to justify why you didn't do X, or maybe you try to like slide into, really, I did because blah, blah, blah. No, obviously everyone's situation is different. But we didn't, I mean, we did get married. We did get married young,
Mhm.
according to like what most people would think. I
got married young. We waited 11 years though to have kids.
Okay. So you did. Okay. All right. Okay. I was thinking it was going to be, I was thinking you got married a little bit. No, of course, because you guys met in college. You got married right out of college?
Yes.
How old
we
were
got
you?
engaged in college.
Uh-huh.
We got married, and let's see, I got married in 93.
Yeah.
I was born in 71. So I was still 21. I turned 22 the next month.
So, okay.
Denise was 21. She didn't turn 22 until November.
Okay. So I had turned 21 the month before I got married.
Mhm.
So pretty much the same situation.
Yeah.
We just waited a little bit less.
Yeah, we waited
time than you
11
guys.
years
And
before
so
we had Madison.
So you can tell me to shut up and mind my own business, but was that a clear, we're deciding to wait that long?
So, so when we got married, Denise's father said to us, just remember that you're young.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy each other for a while.
Yeah.
And so that was all he said.
Yeah.
And we did. And then, though, we also did have some fertility issues.
Mm-hmm. As did we.
It was so funny, though, because, like, of course, it's easier to first test the guy.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I went to a doctor.
Yeah.
And I did what I needed to do.
Yeah.
In order to be tested.
Uh-huh.
And when we went back, he said to me, I'll never forget, he said, "You played football, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Okay, let me put it like this. You don't have any All-Americans in your backfield, but you got enough to win a few games."
Uh-huh. That's hilarious. I was told you have plenty of guys,
Mm-hmm.
lots of guys.
Mm-hmm.
None of them want to do anything. They're all real lethargic, man. And I was like, that kind of tracks.
That tracks.
Yeah.
So anyway.
All right, let's go.
Okay. So here's, now that the comedy's over, well, maybe for now, here's the clip. This is a news clip, actually from just in June of this year.
Okay.
On CBS.
Listen to this. The birth rate in the U.S. is dropping and actually hit an all-time low in 2024. Fewer than 1.6 children were born per woman last year. In the early 1960s, the total fertility rate was around 3.5. But a CDC review of birth certificates released earlier this year found a 1% increase in live births in 2024. That's about 33,000 more than the year prior. Here to explain is Dr. Joanne Stone. She's a maternal fetal medicine specialist and a professor and chair at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. Dr. Stone, thank you so much for joining us. So my first question is, explain what this means, that the fertility rate is dropping, but the number of births increased.
So the general fertility rate means number of births given to women who are aged 15 to 44 per 1,000 women. So while the number of births actually increased, the number of births per woman decreased. So there's just a larger pool. And it's really interesting when you break it down into age-specific numbers. So women aged 15 to 34 had a decline in number of births. Women aged 35 to 39 were stable. And women who are 40 to over had an increase in births. So it's really those women in their 40s that are driving that small increase in births.
And doctor, do we know why we're seeing a decline in the fertility rate?
Well, fertility rate, I think, is an indicator of public health. I think we have to ask the question, why is that? And I think things like access to reproductive care, health economics, the cost of living, housing, and paid parental leave are key factors to that decrease in birth rate.
When we do see a dip in the fertility rate like this, is that something we should be concerned about? Why does that matter?
I think it matters because there's less people coming into the workplace. I mean, years from now, we're going to have less workers, less people in the classroom. So I think that it does have a large impact on the overall population.
Now, the Trump administration has actually been trying to encourage Americans to have more children. We're seeing benefits, expanded access to IVF, baby bonuses to families, things like that. Could those potentially be effective?
I think there's a lot of controversy about that. What is the actual impact going to be? So that executive bill is asking for recommendations. I'm not sure it's going to impact our low-income women and have access to those women who seek those kind of care. And we know the maternity deserts across rural America. So I think it remains to be seen what that impact will be.
And when we talk about the fertility rate, I mean, is it economical? Is it cultural? Is it a lot of factors that are influencing?
I think it's a lot of factors. And I think the fact that we're seeing women in their 40s show that women are delaying childbearing for both personal and professional reasons. Medical advances are really important. Advances in reproductive technology are helping women who are older have children. But I think, overall, that's what's driving that change.
All right, Dr. Joanne Stone, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. There was a lot of information there. What are your initial thoughts in regards to what we're talking about?
So we're kind of transitioning here in the conversation to a more societal conversation, which is fine. I kind of see it all connected. It is connected. It is connected for sure. But when I look at this, I do think of it as two separate things.
Okay.
One being the choice for an individual couple.
Mm-hmm.
How do they want to structure their lives?
Mm-hmm.
And what kind of trade-offs do they want? And then the societal impacts or the societal changes that are happening, and what we can kind of predict from that and how we should think of that. Is there a should that we should we think of it in any way, right? So I had a couple thoughts. Number one is this issue, it's so interesting that it's so interesting. Let me finish the sentence. It's so interesting that it's becoming a bubbling up to the surface news story right now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it shouldn't be interesting to me, actually, now that I'm thinking about this. Anyway, have you ever had this experience where you're into some aspect of society or history or something, and you research it and you study it, and there's some people who are talking about it, but they're not known to any of your friends. They're not known to most people.
Yeah, it happens to me all the time.
And you're like, oh, this is interesting. And they're talking about some issue.
Mm-hmm.
And so you kind of have a concept of this issue, and you know the people who are talking about it. You know the arguments for and against this, whatever. But nobody that you know talks about it. And then you continue to follow it. You know it's a continued issue, but nobody really cares. Then like 10 years later, 15 years later, people start talking about it as if it's brand new. I felt this way about AI.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to say like, oh, I knew about AI before it was cool. Although I kind of did. I kind of do feel like that. I know intellectually that's not the case. But I was listening to people like Elon Musk and Sam Harris and some of the other big thinkers who were talking about the paperclip problem and all of this kind of stuff, LLMs and that kind of thing, like 10 years ago. I was listening to Elon Musk talk about how he had, prior to that, been sounding the alarm and nobody cared. And so he had decided at that point, this is like 8-9 years ago or whatever, we only have one choice, and that's to meld with it because we're never going to stop it. And that's where Neuralink came from. This is another one. So Mark Stein wrote a book in the early 2000s called America Alone, where he was talking at that point about birth rates. That was the main focus of the book. There's other aspects of the book as well, but the main driver of it was birth rates. And what he was saying is that culture and civilization is driven by demographics. It's the silent driver of all civilization. Civilizations rise and fall on demographics. And what he was pointing out at the time, and I pulled up these statistics so that I could have them, was that in 2000, by 2000, almost every single Western European country was, well, number one, all of them were below replacement rate. All of them. Most of them had gotten to what some demographers, this is just a term, would call collapse rate, or severe demographic decline rate, like 1.3 per woman, right? You need to be at 2.1 in the developed world for replacement. 2.1 babies per woman. If you don't have that, you're declining and you need to import people, right? These countries, and I have these, but like Western Europe and other developed countries, Japan was like this as well. Korea was like this as well. You look across the globe in the early 2000s, if you're a developed country, what we would consider a developed country, you had below replacement, except the United States. And there's a couple other ones, but it was mostly the United States, was still at like 2.2, 2.3. But he points out that's because we have birthright citizenship, unconditional birthright citizenship. So we are counting every birth happening.
Right.
So whatever you think about illegal immigration, those births were counted. His point was, this is obviously an underlying incentive for the politicians to not solve the illegal immigration problem because we need it to prop up our economic systems, because it's the only thing that's keeping us above replacement. Well, what they're pointing out here in this clip is, because we're still counting everyone.
Right.
They're pointing out it's still dropping below replacement.
I have a number that I've found, 11.9 births per 1,000 people. That sounds to me like it's below replacement.
That's right. That's below replacement. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, because in the clip they talk about the problems that you begin to have as a society when your birth rate drops below. But I want to go back a little bit, because we talked about the factors, like when we talk about deciding whether or not to have children, or deciding whether or not to have children later in life.
Yeah.
Because the original topic was this idea, because I think that in my mind, the decision to have children later in life is also the determining factor for the drop in birth rates, because it becomes more and more difficult to have them.
Absolutely.
Right. I also see that the economic...
And there's a correlation between somebody who would decide to wait and somebody who would decide to have less and focus more of their economic assets, whatever, their economic force into a smaller pool, right? So anyway, go ahead.
No, absolutely. Our mentality was we can still divide and conquer.
Yeah.
With only two.
Yeah.
And we've replaced. That's right. We did our part.
And you got both of them to sexual maturity. That's important.
And we got a guy and a girl.
Yeah, we
completely replaced.
That's right. You did.
Yep. So I'm done. I can now become dirt.
As long as somebody else got 3, you need somebody to get 3.
Well, that was where I was counting on you, but you blew it.
I know.
And you got 2 guys. I don't know what you're doing.
I know. I'm not doing anything right.
I know. So, all right. So you have an economic factor that contributes to the personal decision of whether or not we're going to have children, and that impacts birth rates. But when you say that it is better, right? For who?
Yeah. Okay.
That's the question I have. Better for who?
Yeah. So when I'm talking about that, that's why I'm saying, like, I do separate those two statements a little bit in my mind. When I'm talking about better, I am talking about for, let me make this argument as succinct as I can. I'm not talking about for the society. I'm not relating it that way.
Okay.
I'm saying, I think humans' greatest drive is toward responsibility and purpose. Even though
we've discussed
on
the
an
fact
objective
that you don't
level, I don't believe in true purpose. But on a subjective level, I can't see anything higher than taking responsibility as being the purpose for my life. And I think that just like all other organisms, our greatest drive is to replace ourselves. I think that the greatest opportunity for for fulfillment is in creating a family. So I do think on the aggregate, it's a more enriched life to mate, have a family, and pour your life into that family. I think that is an enriched life. And for the kids, now, there's always the argument that it's better for the kids to have older parents because they have more money. That's always the argument that it comes down to. And, I in a particular, under a particular perspective, I can understand that.
Mm-hmm.
However, I also know that there is an ancient process whereby large families have the kids having this experience of not only being the kid to the parent, but also being a parent to the younger kids and having it be this kind of tribe. That I think, I think it's trade-off when we have smaller families, later in life, I think that there is something to the having to figure it out when you're young. Everyone knows that they look back at those young years as like these golden years, and I know when you're in it, it's really hard. I mean, I obviously I've experienced that as well, so I understand that. I just think I think that we're trading off things that we don't realize we're trading off when we're waiting later and later and having less and less.
So a couple thoughts. One is, you talked about the greatest opportunity to experience fulfillment is with the family, right? I would love to talk about fulfillment because I'm not sure that we can ever actually experience it.
Okay.
I think fulfillment is one of those things that is ever elusive.
Mm-hmm. I think you and Rollins probably would agree on that.
Yeah. And which is probably why I've enjoyed reading. By the way, there was one other book of his that I read that I failed to mention. So I held back a little bit of the fanboy.
Okay.
It's the divine, what was it called? Anyway, I've got right over there, The Divine Magician.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, I think that's one of the reasons I really like Peter Rollins is because the reason I think he's brilliant is because we agree on a lot of stuff.
That's what makes people brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right. Yeah.
So, but I do think that the discussion about fulfillment probably needs to be a completely separate conversation.
Sure.
So for the time being, I will, I'll grant you that.
I also think that we're animals. I think we're animals, and I think this concept of a soul is an emergent concept, and it comes out of human experience. And I want to have as human of an experience as possible to develop this thing called a soul. And I think that pouring myself into my family is the number one thing for me to do. Now, I will say this.
Mm-hmm.
I will grant this. It may be that where our society is currently,
mm-hmm.
and actually this gets back to the demographic thing and my whole argument that it's actually wealthy countries that have lower birth rates. It's not because we don't have enough money to have kids. It's when we have more money, we have less kids.
Oh, yeah. I don't think you can actually argue with that.
Well, that is the argument happening online right now. That's what I'm saying.
The argument happening online right now is what?
I know you're not on social media, but if you go on social media, Reddit, whatever, the younger millennials,
mm-hmm.
I'm an elder millennial, that anybody who's like 30 and under,
mm-hmm.
they are convinced. Well, and I shouldn't say they as if they're one big block, but you know what I mean? There is a strong argument being made. The reason our birth rates are dropping is because we're also poor. That's why. Because we don't have enough money. And that was an argument that woman was making too. That doctor was making. Part of her argument for why it was happening was because, number one, she said lack of access to fertility care, which doesn't make any sense at all because the drop is in younger moms. There's an increase. She even said there's an increase mm-hmm. in older moms. Well, those are the ones who would be using fertility care.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't make any sense that having less fertility care would cause a drop in younger moms. But she also said that like lack of access to
I'm glad, by the way,
stuff.
there's a drop in birth rates among 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great thing. Myself.
I know when we were growing up, well, you're 10 years older than me. So
mm-hmm.
you tell me, when I was growing up, when I was in high school, the number one thing people talked about was teen pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
You don't talk about that at all anymore.
No.
Nobody cares about teen pregnancy anymore. I think partly
now
because
you
it's not
have
an issue.
Well, but also the thing, it's not an issue, but I think it's also become, it's not as taboo as it used to be.
Do you think that's what it is?
I think so, because I know that they have daycares now in high schools, and it's not for the teachers.
I understand that.
I mean, back when I was a kid, but if a girl got pregnant,
yeah,
I mean, she got shipped off to an aunt's house or whatever, and
it's a main storyline in Dangerous Minds, one of my absolute favorite films for the 90s.
Okay,
that's a shout out to my wife.
Yeah,
that one of the smartest student in her class,
mm-hmm.
I'll just say in her ghetto class. That was the whole point of the movie, right? She's in a ghetto school.
Okay.
And the smartest one, the bright one,
mm-hmm.
the one that was really going places, got pregnant. And the school was like, well, we have a school for teenage moms that teaches them about how to take care of the baby and blah, blah, blah. And the whole plot line was, well, you don't have to go. You can still graduate and get your degree. And she's like, no, I'm not going to. And then she shows up at the end, and it's all, and it's supposed to be like no, we want you still
mm-hmm.
here in school. But I would be interested in seeing what the statistics are, because I know that I have been tracking demographers talking about how teenagers and 20-somethings are having less sex just in general.
Sure.
Right? And so it's this interesting thing.
I also think there's less taboo around birth control.
That's probably true.
Mm-hmm. Because when I was in high school, I can remember when I was in college, there was a clinic
mm-hmm.
in the town that I was in school in St. Augustine.
Mm-hmm.
And you could go and you'd get a lunch bag full of condoms
mm-hmm.
if you wanted them.
Mm-hmm.
But there were guys in college that were so embarrassed and so ashamed that they would go down and put in fake information.
Sure.
Because you had to put your information so they could, turn it in and get their grants or whatever.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I think that most people it's just commonplace. Well, the things that are in grocery store, like if I go into Walgreens to pick up my prescription, the things that are on the shelf now under family planning blow my mind. All right. Yeah. We don't need to get into that. Real quick shout out though for a podcast I would highly recommend to people that have to do with teen pregnancy. And then we'll kind of move off of that and get back into our topic here. But it's called Liberty Lost. Have you heard of this?
No.
So it's a short what do you call those? Where it's like maybe 9 episodes, but it's just like an in-depth report.
Yeah.
Whatever you call that.
Yeah.
And it's put out by, well, it doesn't matter who put it out. But anyway, it's really interesting. It's about the maternal houses that Liberty University has.
Oh, okay.
And that's all I'm going to say. I would highly recommend listening to that.
Okay.
And okay.
Well, look, let me just go on the record and say, I think you should get married before you mate. Okay, I do think that.
Oh, I think so too.
So I think that you should be getting married. I think get married young, have kids young. That's fine. So yes, I'm happy that, you know, a 15-year-old experimenting with having sex with her boyfriend isn't getting pregnant, right? I'm supposed to say I'm happy that they're not having sex, right? Because that's what we were that's what we were worried about in the 90s. When you're in college, I'm in high school.
Right. And I think also both of us at that time in our lives were in some form of religious institution. We were participating in some form of, and so I also think that some of that our experience has to do with a morality that was given to us based on faith,
which I think is fine.
Sure,
that's where I'll be fine with that.
I also think that Christianity somehow got warped into being about moral policing, but that's again.
We can have a long conversation about that because I think that that's actually inherent to humans, and that any kind of religion is going to be focused on.
We're just coming up with so many topics
violence
right
and
now.
Sex and
you know. Are you writing these all down? We need to be writing these down.
No, but I'm
fulfillment and morality.
I'm saying so. There's this like little. I've seen it written in schools, and there's this little like 3-rule agenda. That's not the right word. Anyway, it's like these 3 rules, and I don't know where it comes from actually, but it's like somebody did this study, and if you followed these 3 rules,
do you remember the rules?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you the rules.
Okay, good.
If you don't follow these rules, there's something like a 75% chance you end up below the poverty line. It's a correlative situation, right? It's not it's not causation. It's correlation. But it's a real strong correlation, so you might as well follow it or look at it, you know. And if you do follow the 3 rules, it's like it's almost impossible for you to fall below the poverty line. Let me remember. It was finish high school, get married after you finish high school, and don't have a kid before you get married. I think that's the 3 things.
Sounds like
if you do that,
sounds like good advice.
But think about that though. I mean, it's something that has to be said for huge. Well, it's not. I don't know. If you don't think about, how rough your life would be. You know how difficult life is. I do want to finish my thought, which is it could be that we live in a society so structured, and I don't think it's been structured like there's like a conspiracy to structure it this way. I just think like it's developed into this. It could be that you know we kind of have we're kind of pushed into this situation of like, it'd be better for me as an individual to wait. Because we don't live in tribes. We don't have multi-generational households. We don't, you know, if you had the multi-generational household.
I do.
You get married. Well, okay. But think, I have people I know. They're all immigrants. These people I know that I'm going to talk about. That's important because they are from very distinctly different cultures.
Sure.
And they are all these people that I'm thinking of, they're very successful. We would consider them successful economically. I would also consider them successful socially, like familially, right? With their family. They're all multi-generation households. Mom and dad came over with virtually nothing. They built up some business. lived like they were poor. They had kids. Their kids grew up. There was no expectation for the kids to leave and go out and forge their own way at 18 years old, right? No expectation. There was an expectation, however. You work for the family. You go to school. You do the things you're supposed to do. You get married. When you get married, your spouse moves in with us. Now you guys are contributing, right? You have kids. Now we have 3 generations in here. And at that point, maybe it's time for you to, now there's a section of the business that you can take over and you go start your own, maybe, right? That seems like a village more to me. That seems like a tribe.
Yeah.
And so it could be that our society, as an hyper individualistic society that we are, I know I'm supposed to be pro if I consider myself a conservative, but I'm not. I think it's caused a lot of problems. Has made it so that, if you're gonna start at 18 out on your own and with like nothing, right? You got to make it your complete own way. And now you bond with another 19-year-old, and now the two of you are going to get married. You're going to be at the bottom of as Jordan Peterson call it the Pareto distribution. You're going to be at the bottom of that hierarchy. It's going to take a while to step up on it. So yeah, I can see why for an individual it would be beneficial to wait. And it's kind of like the tragedy of the commons problem, where like what's good for me doesn't end up being good for the group. Well,
someone that was pulled out of tribe, right? Because I grew up with what you're describing.
Okay.
I grew up where I lived with my grandparents and my mom, and my mom's sisters all still lived at home. Down the street was my mom's oldest brother, his wife, and my 2 cousins. The other way, just a few blocks, was the middle child, another uncle, with his wife and young family. And then when I was in 8th grade, and so that and then as my aunts got married, this was in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah, okay.
And we lived in a community, Rocky River. And then my uncle, at one point, he moved over to Fairview, and it's but where they lived, Fairview's 2 blocks, right? And then when my mom got married, the 3 of us moved into Lakewood.
But it was a conversation that he had moved to Fairview.
Yeah, it was it was a deal. Yeah, he lives in Fairview now. Yeah, because this was going to be the first time kids didn't go to Rocky River high schools.
Yeah.
And then we moved out to North Ridgeville, which, oh my gosh, that was like a full 20 minutes away.
Yeah.
But even then, it was very much a tribe. We all the generations were there, and we all played together, and we all hung together, and even though you had friends, these were like your best friends. And then in 8th grade, I got ripped out of that. And ever since then, I think I have my goal in life is to create tribe. So anyway, I firmly believe that we have done ourselves a disservice by pushing so hard on the American rugged individualism.
Well, and it's what I'm going to use this phrase. It's going to make a lot of people. It's what tamed the West.
Yeah.
But it is the. I think that it's the.
But even then, tribes went together.
That's true. But what I'm saying is, but by the time you piled up in California, there was a lot of people who didn't have any place to go back to because they had burned all their bridges. That's what made up California first. Yeah. But anyway, I think that it's a repercussion, and to be clear, I think there are a lot of benefits to individualism, but I think that this is a repercussion. What I think is interesting about your story, you left when you were 8th grade. 8th grade. So like 13? 12, 13.
Yeah.
So, your experience of it was as the kid having these emotional bonds with your cousins, aunts, and uncles.
I burst into tears as we drove off my street.
I can only imagine. But if you were an adult in that, I'll bet there was an enormous amount of economic benefit from that.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody, has drywall that's rotting out, and you've got like 3 guys that can come over. It's the uncles can come over.
Yep.
Whatever, pick your
Yeah.
thing. So there'd be that as well.
Childcare.
There's childcare.
Yep.
Well, and also this is the thing. This is something that Daryl Cooper talks about as well, which is when you're in a true kind of kinship society, which yours was kind of a quasi kinship society inside of this American society. It's unacceptable for that society to allow like one of your aunts and uncles to lose their home and nobody knows, right? That'd be unacceptable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Like everyone would feel a sense of shame, unless they had done something to particularly pull themselves out of the kin and, whatever.
You knew. It's almost like you had a safety net around you.
That's right. That is the safety net.
Yeah.
And when we take that away as a society, guess what has to step in is the government has to step in with safety nets. Now, you can also argue that the government sometimes starts that process and rips up the safety nets of the family. I would argue
to create
that has happened a
dependency
lot of
on the
times.
government. Sure.
But yeah, I mean, we were just talking about this. Chris and I were just talking about this yesterday. We've got this friend who lives in Indiana, and she lives in the town that she grew up in. And I'll get this wrong, but she has like something like 30 or 40 cousins that live in town. And she said, like, I live here. She's educated. Her husband's educated. And that's important because like they are mobile. They travel a lot to Europe and whatever, like they could move. They could live wherever really and get jobs and be fine. And she said, if my family wasn't here, there's no other reason to live in Fortville, Indiana.
We're looking at where our kid's going to land and trying to decide if that needs to determine where we live.
Oh.
And just one last thought about that, because then I want to kind of run through. I pulled up 2 articles, and then I compiled like what they have as the benefits of marrying and having children younger, or what's the benefits of delaying marriage and starting a family later.
Yeah,
and there's a couple different articles that I pulled this from, and so I want to kind of wrap it up with that. But you mentioned that coming from a different culture. I will say that my grandparents were first generation United States. And I think that probably had something to do with it too.
From where?
The Netherlands.
From the Netherlands. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, my mom still, I don't know if she still does, but for a long time, she still kept in contact with cousins in the Netherlands.
And so just to be clear really quickly with your situation then, it wasn't like we're taking care of grandma and grandpa then. It's like grandma and grandpa set up this shop and everyone stayed here. Not that they didn't take care of grandma and grandpa, but my point is like, there's this other thing of like, my parent has gotten too old to be able to live on his own, whatever. And so we've moved them into our house. That's a different thing.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's good.
Right.
I think that's good too. But that's a different thing from we set up shop. This is now like kind of our fiefdom, if you want to say. We're responsible for these people and our descendants.
And then we're responsible for them.
And then there's a responsibility that goes upward.
And even when they're still very capable. So like when I lived with my grandparents, they both still worked.
Yeah.
Right. They were still bringing income into the home.
Yeah.
And the only one that was still in school was my Aunt Gail.
Yeah.
She was in high school. She might have been a senior in high school at the time. But I also then knew like my grandma and grandpa's brothers and sisters, and they were part of our tribe, and their kids were part of the tribe. And, sort of, you still had them too. Like my first baseball glove was given to me from my mom's cousin's son, who I knew.
Yeah.
Right. And who I would go and watch the television show Planet of the Apes at their house. And I loved being at their house. I knew my great grandparents.
Yeah.
John and Jenny, who it was actually Johann, but anyway, but when they got to the United States, it became John and Jenny.
Yeah,
they my brother and sister are named after, like John is a generational name in our family, and so like you just knew everyone, and I have memories and stories that go along with that. Like I can remember when my great grandfather got older, we would go visit him all the time. And he lived in a little apartment, and my grandmother had passed away at this time, and I would eat his peaches because he loved peaches and cottage cheese. Well, he liked the cottage cheese. He didn't like the peaches.
Mm-hmm.
And so he gave me the canned peaches all the time. So anyway, but like there was something to be said for that.
Yeah,
I
that
think.
baseball mitt was not a baseball mitt to you.
No, it was Chris's mitt.
That was your time. That was a coming of it. That was like
when I lost that mitt, I was devastated. By the time I lost it, it was falling apart.
Yeah.
But yeah,
because it was your position in the family.
Yep.
It was a representation of your position in this world,
Yep.
you know? So yeah, I get that.
So, all right. So we're going to wrap this one up. I feel like we digressed a little bit, but it all connects to, I think, just to kind of connect everything again, we're talking about what are the benefits of getting married and having children younger. Is that better than waiting? We talked about that we
agreed that it is.
Not yet. We'll find our common ground here in a minute. But we agreed that part of the decision making, whether it's good or bad or whether it's true or not, is economics. There's also this cultural influence beyond simply economics, beyond capitalism. There's also this idea that we've lost a little bit, which you would call tribe, you could simply call extended family, but the culture that we live in really emphasizes the rugged individualism.
Yes.
And because of that, we've also find ourselves in a situation where, because every generation seems to be starting out anew, it makes sense to kind of try to wait and establish yourself a little bit first. Where if you're still part of a tribe, the idea of having to get established first isn't necessary because you have a complete built-in support system around you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So other things.
And we built up American myths around this idea of starting out as a young person
mm-hmm.
and chasing your bliss.
Yeah.
We have an entire, all of our movies, all of our TV shows are all written by
mm-hmm.
people who are in their early 20s
mm-hmm.
and trying and doing that.
Yeah.
And so our cultural zeitgeist is that is, it's not just like that's a way to do it.
Right.
It is absolutely the best way
right.
to do it, to go out and be by yourself and get rid of the parents who just don't understand.
Yep. How I Met Your Mother, Friends. Like those are shows where it's all the young people and they're waiting longer. And there was something else I was about to say. Oh, and something else about the economic, because in that news clip we started with, she talked about how there are some economic challenges now. Right. And people talk about how one of the things I've heard is that this is going to be the first generation that actually doesn't have a better standard of living than their parents did.
I've heard that as well.
That being said, I did do, I don't even know where I come up with some of the things that I've become aware of. Like I was talking about earlier, I need to stop for a while because I'm starting to experience mental overload with just too much stuff. But what we would consider the most economically challenged subgroup within the United States is still the 18th largest, has the 18th wealthiest people group in the world.
Yeah. And this is exactly my point, that it's wealthy.
Yeah. We have no idea actually what struggling financially is.
There's a talk show that I used to listen to they used to call it affluenza.
Mm-hmm.
It is the natural, predictable results of an affluent society. And that does not mean that it shows up in an individual's life necessarily.
Right.
An individual might feel that they're struggling, but as a society, we are affluent.
Mm-hmm.
We are an incredibly affluent society. And so, of course, we end up having children later and less because in our society, children are, and this is not just because, I think, but this is one reason. In our culture, in our society, children are a liability, not an asset. They are an economic drain. They're something you have to put into. They're not an asset. They're not something that builds the overall wealth of the family.
We've talked before about how rich we could be if we didn't have kids. That being said, Madison and Robbie, we love you.
Okay, here's the other side of that, and this is, and then I'll be quiet because I know we got to wrap up. Back to my whole, I think individuals, I think individual couples would be better off ignoring this societal zeitgeist that's happening right now, and getting married younger. Make a decision, make a commitment, get married to that person, have kids earlier. Part of the reason why I think that it's better is because when you say, here's how much more wealthy I would be if I didn't have kids, we assume that I am still the same person, but I just don't have the kids.
Sure.
Which means I still have the same jobs. I still work as hard. And I used to think about this all the time. When I was first starting out in the career that I'm in, and this is not a career that has a salary. It is one that has to be built. And it was years and years and years and years of terror, just constant terror. And I had kids during this time. My firstborn was born 6 months after I started this career. And I used to think all the time about how I would balance this in my head. If I didn't have kids, I would be free to go to a lot more networking groups. I'd be free to go do all of these different things, right? And I could make so much more. I would be under such less pressure. But that's exactly it, isn't it? I would be under such less pressure. And so I wouldn't do those things.
Right.
Right? What would I do? I'd probably just sit around. I would consume. I would be intellectual. I'd be a permanent student,
Yeah, so you might even actually be poor.
Having kids it created something in me through a crucible that made it so that I had to make it work.
Right.
All
right.
Anyway.
Benefits of marrying and having children younger. Summaries from the articles.
Okay.
One is you grow and you adapt together as a young couple. That's a benefit. More time for family planning. So in other words, it allows you, if you begin earlier, some flexibility to decide. Now, this one says to decide whether or not you want to start a family. But I don't think to me, that doesn't support the argument of having children younger, but it's in here. Building a strong foundation and support system. More energy for parenting. Yeah, definitely.
There's that. Yeah.
So far, I'm convinced of 2 of the 4. Faster empty nest. I'm not sure that's a benefit. I've enjoyed having my kids around.
Yeah. I know people do. That's a theme on social media as well. The people who do have kids earlier being like, well, now I'm in my early 50s and now we get to go travel and do our thing, which is true. But I'm with you. I feel like that's probably going to be fun for maybe a year.
Yeah.
And I would be like, hey, will you guys have kids, please?
Yeah. Can we come over and see you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
You need to get started on your family so that I have some, I got some work to do.
Yeah. Potential for better health outcomes. Sure. I don't think you can actually argue that.
Yeah.
And then developing a stronger emotional bond and shared experiences. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Of the 7, I find 1, 2, maybe 3 of them convincing. Okay. So I'm not convinced by these arguments.
All right.
That having children younger is better. Yeah. I'm not convinced by that. Also, let's just be completely honest and upfront. It's because I'm very pleased with my own personal experiences.
Yeah.
And so it would take a lot to convince me that there could have been a better way.
And also, that's a rough road to go down that I don't think is beneficial to anybody.
Sure.
Starting to talk about I should have done X.
Yep.
No, I mean I don't want, and I hope that doesn't come across at all. When
I think
about this.
like we prefaced the whole thing with, this is not judgment on any one individual. It's a discussion about in general.
And also, I'm thinking when I'm talking about this kind of stuff,
Mhm.
I am thinking about the younger generation.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about high schoolers. I'm thinking about junior hires.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about like, how can I best help them have a picture of their future and their world?
Yeah.
I don't want anybody who is, 38 years old
Thinking,
and
I wish I
waited,
should have.
thinking that I'm saying that they did it wrong.
Right.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah. No, because telling anybody what they should have done.
What is the point?
It's actually abuse. So it's shaming. And not a healthy I do think there is healthy shame. That might be another one that we could talk about sometime.
Okay.
All right. So benefits of delay.
Yeah.
Financial stability. I have been convinced by our conversation that is not a great argument. Okay?
The economic?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm convinced that's not a great argument. Personal growth and maturity. I still think that might be a good one because I feel like some of those horrific stories I've ever heard of abuse of newborns have been, and I'm not saying this is like, I have no science to back this up. I have no stats to back this up. I can just say through my own personal experience, some of the most horrific stories that I've heard of abuse and killing of infants have come at the hands of very, very young parents.
Sure.
Right. And so I do think that there is something to be said for personal growth and maturity. I also think that's
had another half an hour. I'd argue with that.
That's fine.
The correlation.
But I also think that.
But I do get that. I think you're probably referencing an accurate stat.
So I also though think that going back to the idea of tribe helps that one.
Yeah.
But that being said, that's not the reality. A reduced divorce risk. I would have to look at the stats on that. I don't buy that.
That having kids later somehow reduces
delaying your
risk.
marriage, delaying having kids reduces the risk of divorce.
Yeah, I don't know about that either.
I don't either. And then stronger relationship foundation. I don't buy that either. So of this, I actually find only one of the four convincing for
I win.
Delaying marriage, right? And delaying parenthood. So where am I? Do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, obviously.
Right. That's kind of where I'm at. If you decide to have kids, no matter when you decide to have kids, love them with everything you have. Treat them like they're the most precious thing that you have. Don't listen to all of the parenting experts out there. Don't listen to, what was that? I remember that one. What was her name? Something nanny.
Super Nanny?
Super Nanny. Don't listen
I like
to
Super Nanny.
You know what? I felt like Super Nanny was someone who didn't have her own kids and could tell everybody else how to raise theirs.
Yeah, maybe.
Right? And so that's where I'm at as far as,
I follow the Caesar Milan way of raising kids. He's the dog whisperer.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So what's our common ground, Lucas?
Well, is our common ground that we agree that it is affluent societies that have drops in birth rates, that it's not a result of having poorer civilizations?
Absolutely. It's absolute. I mean, just historically speaking, that's true.
It's clearly, yeah.
Right. I mean, okay.
I think.
I know.
Well, not I think.
I know we're up
are.
against it, but let's just for a moment go to something that I think you would appreciate. Let's look at Rome.
Yes.
Wealthy Roman citizens had less children than the plebes.
Yep. Absolutely.
There you go. It's true.
It just is. And it's across the board. You can see it in the statistics. It is less wealthy societies that have more kids.
Mm-hmm.
And you can say the reasons for it, whatever. But we are not having less kids as a society because it's just so expensive to have kids.
No.
It's just not the case.
Right. And then I know that you could get into discussions, but we don't have time right now about fertility And is our diet, is our lifestyle actually affecting our fertility
I
too?
know, my wife would like to talk about that.
Both of us talked about how we struggled a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Living on Common Ground. Please follow wherever you listen to your podcasts and share it with your friends. You can also find a link to our social in the description. The more people we have living on common ground, the better the world will be.